anyway, you guys get the drift. I'm getting bored. I don't want to go through this again. I don't talk about myself like that. And so for me to be like, hey guys, this is like my favorite stuff. It's so weird. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Mystic Rain here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 favorite tarot decks. Okay, so my first favorite deck is the rider-waite deck. So this deck I don't actually have the box for anymore. I have lost it many moons ago, but as you can see, it's broken in. There's ink all on the back. I don't know if you guys can see that. Ink all in the front of it. I tried to edge it. I did a very poor job, but this deck has gone with me everywhere. It is your classic rider-waite deck, and it is my home deck. When I started to properly try to learn tarot, this was a deck I actually learned with, and it goes with me everywhere. It's just kind of like that deck that you always keep in your arsenal, but the classic rider-waite. Now there's tons of additions to the rider-waite. I believe this is the universal rider-waite, but there's the radiant rider-waite, there's the Waite-Smith, there's a few of those, the Centennial Edition, a few of those. There's a decent amount of vintage rider-waite decks that are out there these days. They're everywhere. You can get them anywhere. But I always like to say, for anyone that's just starting out on their tarot journey and they're learning tarot for the first time, this is a deck that I do believe that everyone should kind of have in their kind of repertoire, mostly because any deck that you work with these days, most likely it's going to be based off of this particular system. And it's helpful if you know where the images are coming from, if you know what system it derives off of. So I do suggest all the time that new beginners start by using this deck. Now, the one thing about this deck is that it does have like really old-timey kind of knight-ish energy. It's not really current, but that's okay. I feel like it's a classic. Whenever I read for clients or anything like that, I do pull this deck out because I feel like it gives them a really sort of authentic tarot kind of experience. Also, whenever I'm reading something or I'm trying to get insight to something, and I'm noticing that for some reason it doesn't seem like I can get the answer easily, like if it's not coming through correctly, I'll have a tendency to put everything down and then just pick this deck up and just go forward again, because I can read it with this deck, because it's just kind of like that deck. My next deck that I use a lot is the Tarot of Dreams deck. So this is what it looks like when you get it in the box. Tarot of Dreams, this is also another home deck. I have a tendency to flip-flop between this deck and the rider-waite deck. Now the Tarot of Dreams deck, this is the back, by the way, and just for comparison, they are a little bit bigger than the standard rider-waite. If I just do card by card, side by side, so you can see, it's a little bit bigger. But this is not a deck that I would say is a good deck for beginners. There's a lot going on in it, and this deck has a lot of things, like other systems that's incorporated into it. So you do have like the Kabbalah that's incorporated into this deck. All of the sort of astrological references are incorporated into this deck, and then also elements and elemental signs are incorporated into this deck. So if you're just learning, this deck can be kind of overwhelming. I do remember when I first got this deck, I was really drawn to the imagery, and then when I picked it up, I couldn't read it. It was just so much going on. I just didn't really understand it. But now I love it. I use it all the time, and this is like my home deck. One thing about this deck is that the energy of it is kind of dark. It's it's not going to sugarcoat anything that you may have had questions to. Like, it's not going to sugarcoat anything for you. It's probably, it's going to give it to you kind of raw. It's going to give you the harsh truth, maybe a little bit mean. So if you're feeling particularly sensitive that day, I don't know if I would advise you to use this particular deck, but hey. Tarot of Dreams. And just so if anyone is interested, this is what the actual box looks like. And here is the back. deck also has extra cards in it. There's 5 extra cards in this deck. One of the cards is a Tree of Life card, which I actually hate using in a tarot deck, so I don't ever use it here, and so I always keep it in the box. But this is the Tree of Life card. And then all the suits come with one additional card. For the cups, there's a Palace of Cups. For the wands, there is a Palace of Wands. See if I can find one. There's also a Palace of Coins, which for anyone that's just beginning, coins is another way to say pentacles. And then there's a Palace of Swords. Here we go, here's one. A Palace of Coins, which is like an ultimate, like, king of coins, okay? I'm gonna show you the other ones. Here's the Palace of Wands. Let's be in here somewhere and I've missed them. Anyway, you guys get the drift. I'm getting bored. I don't want to go through this again. Oh, here's Palace of Cups. And the other one's in there somewhere. I trust that you guys get the idea, because I have just gone, woo! Boredom just hit me like a stick, okay? All right, so next deck, yay! So Light Seer's deck. This is a new deck that I've actually gotten. This is the box. And it's made by Hay House. I actually was really nervous about buying this deck. It was originally an indie deck, and then it went into mass print, and then picked up by Hay House, and Hay House was having issues with its first run, like its first print run, where just the card stock was all over the place and the printing was all over the place, and so many people were actually unhappy. So I waited for a while before I actually ordered this deck, and when I ordered it, they were still having printing issues, and so I ordered it with like a fingers crossed mentality, like, I really hope I get the new print. I really hope I get the new print. I really hope I get the new print. And I think I got the new print, because I was very pleased to see that there was nothing wrong with them when I got them. So we got the Nine of Swords. I think the imagery here is just so pretty. It's so, I don't know, it's very zen. It's very like nurturing. It's kind of like loving. It's not so judgmental. You know, even the Tower card doesn't suck like most Tower cards suck. You know, it's not as, I think, intimidating. This deck is also a really good deck that takes from rider-waite imagery, but does so in a, just kind of like in an updated way, and a sort of more with the times. It's very current. And I like this deck too. I don't use this deck a lot to read for other people, but if I'm working on myself and I'm looking for something with softer energy or a softer approach, I may use this one. The cardstock is actually pretty durable. It's got like this gloss matte type of finish. Easy to shuffle. Really beautiful deck of cards, really beautiful imagery. So that is the Light Seers. And then another deck that I'm particularly fond of is this one, which is the Animal Wisdom Tarot. This is another deck that I don't use to read for other people, but I do use it when I'm working on myself and I'm doing like self-development, because it's a softer deck. It's very motherly. It's a very motherly, loving type deck. And then this deck I think would also be really cool for people that aren't really into having people in their decks. Some people connect more with decks that have more animals than they do people. And so if you're one of those, this deck may be really good for you. The cardstock is actually nice. It shuffles easily. It's a glossy finish. I do really like it. This is a deck I would think that people, I'm not interested. This deck I think requires someone that already kind of has a working knowledge of tarot and a working knowledge of the rider-waite system specifically, because it takes a lot from that. if you don't have a working knowledge of that, I'm not entirely sure if you would get on well with this deck at all. Sometimes I read with it and I'm like, huh? And I definitely have to go back to the guidebook. But one really good thing is that the guidebook in here is actually really nice. It's very detailed and it's in color. So it's a color guidebook. There's a lot of references, a lot of details. And it's actually a book that if like one day you feel like you want to sit down and kind of like really dig into tarot and like learn more about it and learn more about different references and want to drink a cup of tea because it's raining outside, I think this would be really good. But I think it would be a deck that requires a decent amount of patience to use if you're someone that doesn't already have a working understanding of tarot and the tarot system. The last of my faves is the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck by John Holland. Now, depending on who you ask, this can be considered an oracle deck. I use it as a tarot deck. I love this deck. I think it's simple. I think it's user-friendly. There's keywords at the bottom of it if you're someone that kind of needs that. The guidebook in it inside tells you what all the corresponding cards are into the rider-waite system, all the corresponding colors. Like you see, this color here is green, and then you've got some colors in here which are black, which in this particular deck is like corresponds with the majors. But then you'll have cards in here which are red, which corresponds with actually, what do the red cards correspond to? They correspond to wands. So yeah, but the guidebook, it goes really really far into detail with everything, so you have an idea of what you're doing. I think it's a really good beginner's deck. I think it does take from a rider-waite a lot, but the imageries are kind of updated. They're also simplified. It's kind of a what you see is what you get kind of deck. I also think it's a really good deck to use to develop your intuition. There are also 7 additional chakra cards in here, which are pretty cool. So if you're into that, you know, there's a little something for everybody. But this is one of my home decks as well. This is a deck that if I'm reading, I usually always take out. I want to say that these 3 are the decks that are always out on the table. I actually never box these 3 and then put them away, because that's why I've lost this box years ago. They're always just kind of out on the table at all times. I always pull from all of them. But I do like the Psychic Tarot. I think it's a great deck for beginners. Simplified, has everything you need, talks about the chakras, and correlates to the rider-waite, which is why I'm always harping on the issue that I feel like new readers should probably invest in this deck, because you'll notice that all of these decks I have here are based off of this one. If you can read this one, then you can read every other deck. I always say that. But yeah, these are my faves. This is a really weird video because I don't talk about myself like that. And so for me to be like, hey guys, this is like my favorite stuff. It's so weird. All right, guys. As always, if you like what you see, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys soon.